Happy New Year! It's officially 2022, and I figured what better way to start off the new year than by recapping some of my favorite piercings in 2021. I was so fortunate to get to do so many cool pieces and work with so many awesome clients, and these are just a few of the projects I got to do this year that stand out to me. And these are in no particular order aside from number one, because there is absolutely a clear favorite of this year, the sword ear. This project, this might be one of my favorite projects I think I've literally ever done. Technically, this project started in 2020. We started with that vertical industrial. Despite what this ear project may look like overall, it is actually two separate piercings, not one single piercing. It is a vertical industrial through the bowl of the conch, and then it's a faux rook slash like flat placement up above that. We did the vertical industrial back in 2020. My client Michael had the most amazing amount of trust for me because I actually sketched up this ear project on some paper, posted on Instagram, and they saw it and they were like, I'm down. I'm completely down. And they signed up for, right off the bat, one of the most difficult to heal anatomy dependent piercings you can get, a vertical industrial. These are not easy to pierce. These are not easy to heal. And they opted to get that and then deal with healing that for like a year and a half before we could do anything else in the project. So they didn't get to see the final results of all of their work and energy and effort for like close to 2 years. So bless them for having so much faith and so much trust in me, but I think it turned out. All the time as a piercer, I have been told by others that piercing is not an art form. There's no like creativity. There's no artistic merit to piercing. And I've also heard over the course of my career, oh, there's no technical skill to piercing. You're just poking holes in people. And this project is so special to me because I feel like it sums up both of those things in one. You have the artistic and creative elements of the piece, the whole concept behind it, the sword literally looking like it's going through and puncturing the sections of the ear, and then you have the technical skill level to execute piercings as difficult as a vertical industrial and have them heal so well and be so healthy, and to work with the planes of the ears. We're not doing this on a flat surface, we're doing this on the 3D planes of an ear and have everything line up and look like a singular piece. And this client is a server, and all day long at work they get asked if that's a connected piece, if that's one piercing, so we know the optical illusion is working. But this is just one of my favorite pieces that I've ever designed and gotten to do, and I think it really touches on every element of what makes piercing really fun and interesting and exciting for me, from art to technicality to telling a story to the bond I've built with this client working on a project like this. Everything about it is fantastic and I am obsessed with it. As a side note, if anyone has any ears they want to volunteer for me to do whatever I want with, I'm always looking, so let me know. So now, in no particular order, we have some of my other favorite stuff that I've done this year. We've got Katrin's ear with these gold stars. This ear project. I am obsessed with this ear project. And I will tell you, I was a doubter at the get-go. Katrin messaged me and was like, I have this idea for an ear project with like literally dozens of little gold stars. I think it's going to be adorable. And I was like, just stars. We're not going to do anything else. No gemstones, no other shit, nothing. She was like, just stars. And I was like, okay, I've got a loose picture of something. I think we can make, let's see. And I remember calling the jewelry company, calling BVLA and being like, hey, I need like 36 stars. And they were like, oh, for the studio? And I was like, no, for one client. And they were like, I'm sorry, 36 for one person? And I was like, yes, 36 for one person. And we were not sure. And each time I saw Katrin, we added a couple more piercings. This whole ear was in fact done in a year. This is a lot more piercings than I would typically be able to do on a client in a year, but Katrin is a dream client. She takes amazing care of her stuff. She devotes a lot of time to aftercare and making sure her piercings are healing well. And she's got that little bit of luck that she heals fast, but not everyone could do an ear project like this so rapidly. But we did, in each session we would do 2 or 3 more piercings, and everything just really came together absolutely unbelievably beautifully. And I actually texted my BVLA rep after our last session of piercings. I was like, do you remember all those stars we ordered? Do you want to see what that turned out? And I remember Hannah being like, I can't believe I love it this much, but this is literally the most beautiful thing ever, and it's so many of just our simplest piece, and it really is. I work with Katrin in person all the time, and the stars sit on so many different planes of her ear that there's always a different star catching the bulk of the light, and it literally makes her ear feel like it is twinkling and sparkling like the sky whenever she moves her head and she's talking, and it's beautiful. And this is just one ear. We're eventually doing both, and we have a couple special pieces that are the finishing touches on these projects. That'll probably end up in my favorites video for 2022 because it's gonna be so good. But Katrin's ear, so wonderful. It's a little bit ironic that during one of the years when we could not work under the mask for quite a large chunk of it, I have multiple sets of nostril piercings in this video. But for the parts of the year when we could work under the mask, we were doing some cool nostril piercings, and nothing stands out more to me than Caitlin's front-facing nostrils. If there was one under the mask piercing trend that really took over this year, it was these forward-facing nostrils. They were everywhere. Some people call them mantis piercings. That is a slang term. Correct terminology would be front-facing or forward-facing nostrils. And they were so popular this year, and I'm so glad they were because I literally think they're so cute. They're very unique piercings. They're honestly, if you have the right anatomy for them, no harder to heal than any other nostril piercing. And I think if you got the anatomy for them and you want something that's like quirky and unique and different and fun, these are so perfect for that. And Caitlin's set just perfectly accents her little button nose, and they go with her quirky, unique personality, and I'm obsessed on how they look on her. They're so perfect. And if we're gonna talk nostrils, we absolutely have to talk about Ty's high nostrils because these things are amazing. I have not done a set of high nostrils in like 2 years thanks to COVID. This was my first set, getting back to it. And high nostrils are notoriously difficult piercings to get to sit well and line up well and to execute and pierce correctly. So any piercer's first set after a while is always very stressful. These were no exception. I was very stressed going into it. And then tie one of these as sky high as humanly possible. We were 2 knuckles up their nose trying to make these things happen. And they turned out beautifully, and they've been healing beautifully. They're a couple months old in these pictures. They're even older now. They're, I think, close to 6 or 7 months old and still looking beautiful. And whenever I post pictures of these, I always get comments where people are like, oh, I feel like they're sitting like a little uneven or slightly at different angles. And to that, I always like to show this septum is exceptionally deviated. Ty has an exceptionally deviated septum, and not only that, but the nostrils on either side are completely different shapes as they go up the nose. They don't really look like they're the same shape from the front, but on the inside, because of that deviated septum, completely different shapes. And high nostrils have to be pierced perpendicular to the tissue in order for them to heal correctly and well. So these were a challenge to make look anywhere close to even and make line up correctly. But like, I could not be happier. I could not be happier for how deviated that septum is, for them to look this even and this good, and to have healed this well. Sometimes I know what I'm doing. Next up, we have my client, Miss Jo, and I got to do some forehead surface work for her, and surface work is always really cool. I'm always excited when I find a client who wants to get surface work done, understands that it's long-term temporary, they may not have it forever, and is cool with that, and just wants to enjoy it for while it lasts. But the most exciting thing for me about this project is that we did it to celebrate Miss Jo's 3rd remission. We have been piercing her and tattooing her for quite some time now, and she had to take a break. She was in chemo again, but we have our 3rd remission, so we got to redo her surface anchor to celebrate, and that smile is intoxicating. Look at her. She is such a good example that you are never too old, that no matter what's going on in your life, it is never too late to live your life as authentically as possible and do what makes you happy. Be that piercings, be that tattoos, whatever the case may be. And we use this cute little marquee fan to kind of be her little princess crown because she is the queen after her 3rd remission, and I just love it, and I love her, and I love her and her daughter, and the fact that we get to work on both of them, and she's just such an inspiration for living authentically and being your best self, and I love it. Speaking of other really wonderful clients I work with, I gotta talk about my wonderful client and friend Jasper and his bridge piercing that I got to do this year. Now, I have done a ton of bridges this year, and I've done a ton of bridges with some baller jewelry, but the reason why this bridge piercing is what made my top 10 list for 2021 is the story behind it. If you follow me on TikTok, I talked a lot about Jasper's bridge when we did it, because Jasper has really severe tics and had been turned away for getting pierced by a lot of other studios that weren't willing to try and work with his tics ticks in order to do safe piercings for him. And this is a problem that I hear about happening constantly. And I won't lie, as a piercer, it is challenging to pierce a client with ticks, especially when we're talking about a very, very precision piercing like a bridge piercing, and we're talking about someone who has very severe facial tics. But I'm going to throw up a video here. This is a little clip of me performing this piercing with Rob. This is for my TikTok, pardon the quality. But yeah, this still really shows the body positioning we went with. Rob has his arms alongside Jasper's head and is kneeling, and then I'm standing behind Rob. We did this so that I could brace my arms and body mostly on Rob, because touching Jasper did trigger tics and could make them worse. And also, Rob having his hands on Jasper's shoulders gave Jasper a different sensation to focus on while I was working in piercing, and that also helped minimize the tics. And this allowed for us to stabilize Jasper's head on the off chance we did have a very severe head tick. It was keeping everyone safe from a needle stick, and this worked out swimmingly. The piercing came out perfect. We've since used this technique to do other piercings for him and get all of the successful piercings that he wanted. And what I love the most about this is after I posted this and talked about this, I got tons of messages from clients with tics who were really excited to see that representation and see that there were piercers willing to work with them, and that gave them a lot of hope surrounding piercing. And more importantly, a lot of other piercers reached out to me and told me that these were workarounds that they had never considered for working with clients with tics and performing piercings on someone with tics. And I feel like it definitely helped a lot of folks be able to be more accessible, and I definitely think that's something that this industry needs, is more piercers willing to attempt accessibility and work with every client to be able to do what we can for them. And I mean, like, just look at how good that bridge turned out. That thing looks great. Next, we have my client Jimmy's vertical hand bent industrial. This was really exciting for me because I don't get to do a lot of custom bent industrials. It's not something where I have a ton of training or education in. So this year I spent a lot of time working with my boss, Ian Bishop, who's got lots of experience in these types of industrial projects. And it culminated with me getting to pierce this piece, but also custom bend the jewelry myself, repolish it for install, do all the things. And I think it turned out beautifully and it healed really beautifully. And here are just some really crispy angle shots so y'all can see how everything lays. But this was just really exciting, and I'm stoked to be able to add custom bending to my repertoire as a piercer, and just be able to offer more cool stuff and work with more different client anatomies. Despite not working under the mask much of the year, I still got to do a lot of really cool oral piercings, namely a couple cool sets of cheeks and dahlias, and out of all of them, Scout's dahlias had to make this list because, I mean, come on, just look at them. Their aesthetic is literally immaculate. All of the piercings, all of the symmetry, and I was so honored to be trusted to do this set of dahlias, which are really tricky to perform, really tricky to heal, and to be trusted to guide them through this process, and they have been healing beautifully, and these piercings suit them so unbelievably well, and I just love the whole thing. It has just dawned on me that there are a lot of industrial piercings in this year's top 10 as we are rolling into talking about Rob's custom faux industrial, modified industrial inspired setup. For those who do not know or do not already follow me, Rob is my jewelry stylist and our other manager at Icon Tattoo, one of my amazing coworkers. He's had an industrial in the past and it did not work out, did not heal well. He didn't have great anatomy for it, and he really wanted one again. But A, he didn't have great anatomy for industrial in the first place. B, we had scar tissue to deal with. And C, he's got like 8 million other piercings with the craziest, wildest jewelry that I have to work around on his ear. So this was no small feat. But I absolutely love the end result that we came up with. We did these 2 little angled helixes and had origins handmade out of Asheville, connect them with a custom bridle bar, and we've added a whole mess of chains on either end. And this is definitely a very unique, a very, I think, deconstructed or abstract take on an industrial piercing. But it's really fun, it's really cool. I think it flows really beautifully with all of his other pieces, and I love that from the front you just see this nice bar of gold up the ear. It gives it this little flash and this shine, and all day long at work clients are always like, oh my god, what is that? How is that on your ear? How is this industrial working? This is so cool. So it's very fun to get to see in action. And last but certainly not least is my client Sarah. Sarah has EDS, and she also has an epidermis nevus birthmark on her ear, and she'd been told many times that she couldn't have her ears pierced, most notably by places like Claire's and Piercing Pagoda, and she just kind of given up on having earrings on both of her ears and just rocked it on the one. But when she messaged me on Instagram, I am not kidding when I told y'all I yelled when I first saw her ears. First of all, she's the coolest ears ever. I want to steal both of her ears. They're so amazing. But secondly, I was over the moon to be trusted to try and make these piercings happen for her, and regain her faith in the piercings and in the potential that piercings could have for her ears. So we got to do these piercings for her. I was so excited to get to give her an earlobe piercing after all those years of wanting one, and we started a really cool cartilage project. Now she does have EDS that can make healing slower and affect how the body handles piercing. We do have to approach piercing her and her stuff healing with a little bit more care and a little bit of a slower, more cautious approach than we do others, but so far we're having a ton of success. This is just the start. We have a bunch of cool cartilage stuff planned, but I think her ear is really beautiful and really gorgeous, and when I've posted about it and shared it this year, I could not believe the outpouring of clients with EDS who were so excited to see themselves represented in body piercing and hear EDS talked about in body piercing, and I got to hear so many people's stories and connect with so many different people through this, and I look forward to continuing to do work with the EDS community as a body piercer, and maybe even publishing some content about that here on YouTube or on my blog one day, who knows, but this ear is precious and so is Sarah. And those were just some of my favorite piercings from 2021, my top 10 if you will. Obviously, every single piercing that I got to do and every single client that I got to pierce, I am so grateful for and so honored to be a part of your experiences and your affirmations through body piercing. But these 10 just really stood out to me, either technically or for my experience with the clients or just overall everything. I just loved all of these. And if you like this video and you want to see more, please like and subscribe. And if you have any questions about any of these piercings or want to learn more, ask me down in the comments. All right, hang out with y'all soon.